Today, we bring a story about what happens when a prank goes wrong, when a joke goes wrong. One should always know when to quit, we all know that. However, sometimes the going wrong part is out of hands of everyone involved. Let's start with a bit of backstory. Pandora is a stubborn woman, let's say in her mid-40s. She is nice enough, but she has a hard time taking advice or criticism. She has a strange I can do it myself mindset, and while she is right a lot of the time, she almost never listens, even when she needs to hear the words being said to her. Pandora works in the video game distortion. She runs a small business where she and her friend Gerard make modern parts of games that are considered outdated. They started the business roughly 2 decades ago, and their current project is Segasonic the Hedgehog, a game that not many have played, it's been exclusive to arcade. For this particular project, Pandora and Gerard decided to hire an intern. Segasonic is a pretty short game, so it will be a good project to test out how they work with more people. They thought it would be a good plan, so they hired a man named Cal in his early 20s. He seemed pretty immature, but he was a big Sonic fan, and he seemed eager to work with Pandora and Gerard. The way they worked was pretty simple. When it was just Pandora and Gerard, one person would start with a part, and after they got some progress, they would pass it over to the other to them to make more progress. They repeated the progress until the game was finished. They pretty much never changed this, so they tried it with Kyle. They had been working hard on the game for a couple of months, but it came about time for the finishing touches. Now, Kyle wasn't particularly fond of Pandora, and for good reason. Her work, while mostly solid, wasn't perfect. There were currently bugs found in her build. Every time Kyle tried to point those out to her, she dismissed him, while criticizing Kyle's work for roughly. So he decided to have a bit of fun finishing up the part. He sent them the supposedly finished project and waited to hear back. Pandora and Gerard seemingly both got the same thing, a file code, Segasonic.zip. Pandora booted up the game, started by extracting the file of course, and then opened it. The game intro played, just as you expected, but Mighty wasn't present, and it's not like his graphics were bugged or anything. Mighty just wasn't there. Pandora started a list of things that needed fixing, starting with the intro missing Mighty. Upon loading the character selection, Mighty is missing from there too. Never but from Cal, Pandora edition. She started the game as Sonic. The tutorial and volcanic boats started like normal, with Dr. Robotnik chancing Sonic to escape, doubting that he is able to do so. Although, the constant obstacle chasing you throughout the level seemed to be missing entirely. The feeling of how to hurry up was simply gone. You could backtrack with no problem. Enough about it. As Pandora approaches the end of the level, he sees Mighty. No wonder why he's showing up here though. When approaching him, the game acts like a cutscene begins. Mighty adjustedly has his back turned to Sonic, but when Sonic gets close to him, he turns around, looking normal, and too, he suddenly starts to grow. His shell starts to crack, and gets darker, and his muscles start to turn into this dead flesh-looking color. His arms grew longer, and his hands became larger with his fingers coming to a sharp point. His eyes turned into a deep grey, and looked like they were peeling back like a sticker, and under his eyes were looked to be black tears. He looks dead, like a zombie, almost. He opened his mouth wide to reveal those yellow, uneven teeth, and he let out his sinister laugh. He then kneels down, like he's about to start running. Upon doing so, the game's go prompt appears, pointing in the direction opposite to his exit. This was more than bugs, Pandora thought. Kyle was doing this intentionally. As Mighty was charging him up, Pandora quickly sent Sonic back towards the beginning of the stage, even though some parts of the level would normally become impossible to go through in reverse. As comic folk became slowly destroyed as it progressed, everything looked like it was suddenly repaired for you too much room to mess up, and on top of that, you had to do it quickly, apparently. During the segment where you are standing on this scale waiting for the mega rocket to launch you up, Mighty lands on it from above and sends Sonic to launch it, seemingly by mistake. Maybe Pandora was just clever enough to outsmart him. That seemed to be thought in her head for a second. When she got to the beginning of it, it looked to be a dead end, until she had a thought. What if she went through the level 3 times, but Carol clearly didn't care about her being achieved. She waited for Mighty to get close, before running around him and making a mad dash for the level's actual exit again. There were full close calls, but when she made it behind the level, the exit closed behind Sonic. Mighty stamped his foot angrily before facing the screen, pointing at Pandora herself. He laughed and yelled, "I'll try harder next time!" before jumping off screen. What had Carol done to this game? After that, the level's result screen flipped as normal. Instead of a level time system screen, Pandora is taken back to the character selection. Sonic is just a silhouette. Trying to select him again resulted in text appearing across him reading, "This player needs rest." Due to this, he was forced to choose Ray. Once he was selected, the level time system played as normal. Robotnik, instead of looking angry, looked nervous, sweating a little bit. When Ray's icon moved the icy aisles, Robotnik turned around. The rest continued to normal, although he chuckles in a way that's suddenly quite nervous, like not even he knows what just happened, or what will happen. After that, it was time for level 2, Icy Aisles. The levels, same as last time, started mostly normal. When it came time for Robotnik to yell, "I've got you now!" his sprite looked less aversive, and instead shouted, "Get a load of this, rodent!" The traps went on like normal to the end. Again, like last time, Mighty had his back turned. Until Ray approached him, then he turned into the half-rotted Mighty again. Unlike Sonic, who seemed ready to fight into Pandora's push to run away, Ray obviously looked scared, like he wanted to love on the way. Just like before, Pandora was prompted to go into the opposite direction where which she came, back towards the beginning. It was pretty much the same thing as for Volcanic Fault. She just traversed the level backwards, but it was harder because the portions of the level that were broken were hastily put back together. When she got to the end, or rather the beginning, she had the same idea as last time, track back to the ending. This really was starting to get on her nerves already, but she'd be damned if she let something happen to get the best of her as she got the best of her. After some really tight gameplay, Pandora eventually reached the end, the door sealing behind Ray like last time. This time, Mighty trumps again. When he turns to the screen this time, he does the same laugh and points this time, saying, "I'll get you yet!" before jumping off again, and the level finally ending in the result screen. The next level's transition was the same as last time, except Ray needed rest instead of Sonic. The scene with Robotnik looked good and nervously wrestling was the same as last time. Just like you would expect, the level was mostly normal until the first enemy came in. Instead of Robotnik being the one to cause the traps at the beginning of the level, it seems like he was one to release the big centipede-like robot, except instead of being Robotnik looking, it looked almost fleshy, alive. He shared that rotten look with Mighty. At one point while dashing through the level, she made a mistake and Sonic fell into one of his sand rail pills. When he fell in, instead of two peasants falling inside, he looked like a bunch of decomposing hands pulled him aside. He responded like normal, but it was yet another thing that caught her eye. There were a few subtle changes like that from here forward. Just like before, Sonic encountered Mighty at the end of the level, and it was a race to the finish, you know, the deal by this point. When Pandora reached the beginning, the ground seemed thinner than before, leaving less room for her to wander around Mighty. She gave it one valiant attempt, but it served to be no use as Mighty catches Sonic. Might grabs Sonic by the arm and throws him at a nearby rock. The screen flashes back before any impact by can see. A large crash can brutally be heard, and Pandora was sure she saw Sonic's arm became detached from his body. Mighty appears in the center of the calmly black screen, turns to the screen camera and begins to chuckle at Pandora's fruitless attempt at her escape. He points at them shouting, "I told you! I told you!" before jumping away like last time. When all of that was done, the cherry Visco screen plays. It was as if the game waited for all the horror to end before going back to the flashy colors it should normally display. Except something about it felt warm right now. After being sent back to the character select, Sonic's silhouette was now missing an arm. The text no longer said "this player needs rest." It now read, "this player needs to be recovered." Well, yeah, Pandora thought, of course. You'd need time to recover from having your arm torn off. Not to mention whatever that crash was. Anyways, she's forced to pick away. During the level transition, Eggman looked like he was hunched over his devices. Hyper-facilitate him. He turns around, supposedly to leave, and he suddenly jumps and lets out a slight yelp. Then, the next level begins. Trap Tower. Trap Tower as a level is already a pretty large spike in the normal game. Given the name, there are traps everywhere, and it's pretty hard to maneuver. Since Pandora had been getting used to the game's controls over the past few months, though she was able to play without much issue. She couldn't help but be distracted by a few key details this time around, however. For starters, Robotnik wasn't smiling when we set the traps up, and he didn't even say anything. He just nervously pushed the button. On top of that, each trap also had that weird fleshy look the last level Centipede robot thingy had. It was especially abundant here. Due to the amount of traps and obstacles, instead of looking sharp and metallic, they looked soft and vaguely squishy. Not like you'd be impaled by its spikes or its bumps now, but rather you perish from the sheer weight of it alone. All of the traps in the level were like this. Like if they stood still, you could see the rise and fall as if it could breathe, gameplay wise. The level was roughly the same as the normal one, just like most levels up until now. And who would have guessed it? Mighty was wanting challenge at the end of the level. You get the gist of it. Like with Sonic in Desert Dirt, the path was narrow. Trying to run around Mighty proved to be useless, and he makes contact with Way. He holds up Way by his head before throwing him into the air and then yanking his limbs. The scream again cuts to black before Pandora could see anything happen, but it was pretty clear what happened to Way. Mighty then turned to the scream, simply laughing at Pandora's failure before jumping off again. Not like before, the game waited for total silence to play the clearly resolved scream. At least her score was pretty good. You get the idea by now. Way needs to recover, so it was time to play as Sonic. Sonic's portrait looked way different than before though. He was missing an arm, and there was a big bloody splat on his head, covered in bandages. It looked like during his recovery time, he got taken care of. He still looked pretty terrible though, and he looked pretty angry. Without any other choice, Pandora chose Sonic. During the level transition, Eggman was still in front of his computer, watching everything happen. There looks to be someone next to him, and they're too shut to be seen clearly, and Pandora can't tell who it is. Eggman looks at him and chuckles nervously, but the shadow figure raises the hand. Eggman slowly frowns before the screen turns black, and Eggman could be heard screaming. Then the next level begins. Landslide Libo. Before getting into the level, there's one key detail. When the battle began, Eggman appeared to start the traps again, when he normally isn't present by this point. When he appeared though, he wasn't smiling. He looked pretty upset actually. One of his arms was missing, part of his mustache is shorter and messier, like it was torn off. His nose is bleeding, and one of his goggles is cracked. He pushes a button to activate the traps on his good arm onto the level itself. Landslide Libo looks downright grotesque. Just about everything but the ground has that fleshy look that only the robots had previously. Traps were things like bombs, flame emitters, there was no doubt in it. Of course, in terms of level design, everything was the same, but tactically, the level was brutally alive. Sonic himself also played slightly differently. He wouldn't run as fast, and his jumps seemed to not go as high as it should. All of his sound effects were lower pitched, and his screams when heard sounded more like pained groans than comical screaming. The robot at the end of the level also had many human figures. The whole thing was covered in skin and looked vaguely hairy. The saw blade had teeth on them, and the fire splitters looked like mouths that simply had bad breath. Like before, you tended to break it. Upon breaking it, it explodes into a pile of bones and various organs. Under the debris though is Mighty again, ready to race. Running through a level, which normally has the entire ground break as you run through it backwards, all of the ground has been replaced with elongated rods of flesh. Due to Sonic's slow speed, Mighty actually catches up this time. When he catches Sonic, he grabs him by the leg, then grabs him by the other leg. He then starts to tear him in half. It seems his limbs look to stretch further in order for him to rip him or effectively. As he rips Sonic more, his screams get more and more intense. When the actual tear happens, the screen quickly turns to black. All that can be heard is flesh tearing, followed by Sonic's screams slowly coming to a stop. Mighty doesn't even say anything this time around. The soul screen just played, but Sonic icon didn't show up, and the music didn't either. Just the ring count and whether or not Pandora reserves a bonus which he didn't. Damn. Character select once again. Sonic's silhouette is gone, leaving just Ray, who seems to have both arms and casts. His eye rims, which were pulled off last time, were attached to the whole length of his arms, so the injury pulling both by his arms and cost makes sense. He can't move them. Despite that though, he's forced to play as him. The little transition plays again. The shadowed figure is gone, and Eggman looks to be leaning back to his seat, relaxed almost. The scream shines on his face as Ray moves to the 6th level, Wild Water Ray. The water in the level wasn't strange. It was a mixture of colours, red, yellow, pale green, all sorts of body fluid colours, which was really gross. Pandora thought. She knew Carol's mind was fucked up before, but this was just nasty. The bridge looked to be made out of human skin with entrails as the ropes holding it up. When the trap set off, another Eggman intermission thing happened, and Pandora expects him to calmly push the button like he did before. But when the static clears, it shows something much more sinister. Eggman is laid back in the chair, but not because he's relaxed, it's because he's dead. Both of his goggles are cracked and his skin looks deathly pale. One of his arms is missing from the socket and the other is just missing the hand. He also has a big chunk missing from his head, leaving portions of his brain exposed. This stays on screen for a couple of seconds, leaving Pandora paralyzed, staring at it. In the time, she's stuck. The bridge breaks and she goes into the water. The oncoming propeller looks to be made of tissues. The turtle is just a skeleton, and the mines are kidney stones? The centipede-like enemies now look to be giant tapeworms, and the clams are closed antways. During the rock climbing area, it also looks like skin, and it throws out the same red, yellow, and greenish liquid. During the raft area, the rafts were just big bones. This place was straight up disgusting. And just like you would expect, Mighty was waiting at the end of the level. Pandora tried to run away, but Wade didn't move. It looked like he didn't want to. No matter what Pandora did, Wade just couldn't move. He looked like he had just accepted it. So, of course Mighty caught him. Mighty looked to grab Wade directly by the whip of his hand, causing him to scream in pain. Mighty then grabs the bottom of his jaw and becomes ripping him apart. Just when Pandora thinks Wade's screams can't get any louder, they suddenly come to a stop as a scream cuts to black, with the only thing she can hear being a really squelch whipping noise. Same as before, the result screen played without Wade's icon and music, and still no bonus. Now there was no counter select, just to the levels transition, where Eggman's body was still laying. Mighty's icon went to the final level, Eggman's Tower, although it seemed to be renamed as Silverface Tower. The same Mott and Mighty walked through Eggman's Tower. Pandora had no control of him and was forced to watch. The entire tower had that fleshy look of everything else, but it felt like it was the most intense ever here. It cannot ever be described. This is what Mighty believed to be the end day or home. Everything is alive and breathing. Everything is out again. And he is the one true ruler. He walks all the way to the final room where you normally find Eggman. Eggman is still sat in his chair, but the bodies of Sonic and Way are also there. Life was on the ground. Mighty sits on the throne of the room and makes himself wonderful. The throne is facing directly to the screen, right at Pandora. Slowly, files from the notepad app began to open over the game. It took Pandora a second to realize, but it seemed like Mighty was talking to her using the notepad. Each time Pandora closed one, another was open.
Greetings, my dear. You must thank you for playing my little game. We had so much fun, didn't we? Yes, you may have thought it was over, but there's one last round. One final lap.
As Pandora closes the notepad, Mighty begins to snicker as he snaps his fingers in-game. The bodies of Sonic, Eggman and Reyes were standing, so damaged and horrible looking, but standing.
Let them all out! Help them escape! I will restore the world and spare your realm if you exceed. But if you don't...
Mighty begins to laugh again as he floats into the air. A timer for 55 seconds appears, and Pandora easily takes control of Sonic, who is slow due to his legs being, well, broken. This final lap is in reference to the ending segment of the game, where which character you're playing as must run to the exit of Eggman's tower before he self-destructs. So, Pandora was to send everyone out in 55 seconds. Should be just enough time, she thought. She hadn't taken into account the fact that the characters are all severely injured. Sonic reached the exit after 25 seconds. He stands and waits at the door as Pandora takes control of Way. His legs were injured, but he's still running a bit slower. He takes into the door 20 seconds, leaving Pandora with just 10 seconds to get Eggman out of the door. She had high doubts he'll be able to do it in time, but Eggman didn't want. His knees seemed to be broken, and so he rolled down the steps. It was much faster. He was gonna make it. Just when Control could see Sonic and Ray accident, the timer goes off. Busy screams, shakes, and turns lights. As the camera pans to the outside of the tower, it collapses, and everyone inside falls with it. Mighty demands from the floor in front of the screen, left him maniacally. His body looks to get more and more rotted until he turns into a pile of monk on the ground. Pandora thought maybe his unstable body couldn't take that much movement until it started to wiggle a bit, and then some more. When suddenly, a little worm jumped out of the pile that was once Mighty. The worm was black, with a big head and yellow eyes, much like Mighty had before. Has this worm been possessing Mighty? He begins to laugh again, for a long time. Pandora waited for him to say something else until it went on for too long. She goes to turn off the game when another appears and the worm's laughing stops.
Apologies, but I am in control now.
When Pandora closes the final.txt file, her computer crashes. She tries to turn it on again. Nothing happens. No matter what she does, the computer won't turn back on. She tries everything. Nothing. A couple of days pass and it comes time for Pandora, Gilad, and Mikhail to meet up and discuss the game, how the game came out, any bug fixes, stuff like that. When they all meet together, Pandora is intimately pretty pissed, but she decides to be patient and see what Gilad says first. Gilad praises Kyle's work. I found little to no bugs. Everything controls great. Sounds great. Looks great. I say it's one of our finest parts. It's great having you here, Kyle. Kyle seems a bit proud of himself for that. Even chuckles. So, well, how about you, Miss Pandora? You can guess ready when Pandora let loose on Michael a little bit. She calls him deranged and an utter madman for what she had to go sit through. Kyle begins to laugh. Got you pretty good, huh? This response only makes Pandora angrier. It was much more than just some light-hearted thought. She thought there was something seriously wrong with this boy's head. As things continue, she's begun describing events, Mighty being her cubs, killing everyone, the living scenery, all of it. Kyle begins to stop her though. Miss Pandora? I didn't add any of those things. Pandora thinks he's playing dumb at first, and he continues explanation. I made the rotten Mighty you mentioned, then a couple more sprites, but the bigger thing was some small AI that decided what sprites show up. It was supposed to only be a fucked up looking Mighty and maybe a fucked up Sonic and Ray. I don't know about anything else you saw. Garrett begins to think that Pandora was over-exaggerating because she didn't seem to like Kyle all that much to begin with. Until Pandora mentioned one key detail. She has pictures. As she played the game, she was taking pictures of everything on her phone because she somehow knew something was going to happen. And someone would doubt her. So she pulled up her phone and lo and behold, she has receipts. The imagery is great, unsettling to say the least. Garrett finds himself sick, and Carol is pretty disturbed by it too. Yeah, I didn't do any of that. Pandora is stumped, as is Carol, and Garrett doesn't even know where to stand on this. It's a bit too late to harp on things now, so Pandora had no right but to believe Kyle's word, and, in the meantime, try and get her computer fixed. She tries to make it to multiple shops, and no one can seem to fix it. The amount of money she burns on one computer is kinda crazy, but it's an important computer, she has all her work on it. She's able to get the computer entire contents on a USB drive, so she's get all of her work saved. She unfortunately has to get a new computer. But it'll be fine, right? Once it's all set up, she gets ready to plug in the USB drive. She goes to plug it in when she realizes saving. If a previous computer entire contents is on this drive, so is that damn worm.